What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Heart Over Height episode. Today we're going to be going over the game that happened this morning. USA played Australia. So we're going to do a full game breakdown, all that good stuff, as well as talk about group play and everything. So if you do enjoy this kind of content, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 12K. We're almost there. And then be sure to comment down below on how you felt about this game. Did you watch it? Did you not? When you did watch it, what did you see? What did you think that the United States could do to improve? Same thing with Australia. So with that being said, let's get right on into this. So this game finished 98-92. And overall, after watching this game, there's definitely some adjustments that the United States needs to make. But before I get into the adjustments and everything, let's talk about Australia, because Australia showed why they were one of those top 5 teams that I put in the video saying the top 5 scariest teams for the United States. They were up at the United States in times in this game were up by quite a lot. Right around that 20 mark, they were staying pretty consistently. And then the third quarter came around, and Australia showcased why team basketball beats that talent. Because although the United States has all the star power in the world, Australia did not give in at any point in time during this game. They showcased that role players that work really well together, they play team basketball, can show why they deserve a spot, to be a threat for the gold medal, silver medal, etc. So let's break down Australia. I'm going to go through a few players here and talk about who I was most impressed by, who I would like to see a little bit more out of in the future as well. So first guy that I was very impressed with, which if you're a Hawk fan, you should be very excited because it's Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels had a really solid game, a young up-and-coming player. He shot the ball really well, 6 for 8. He shot 1 for 2 from 3. Had a couple rebounds and assists, a bunch of steals here. Yes, he did have 4 turnovers. His plus-minus wasn't great, but you can definitely look at this box score. He doesn't have the worst plus-minus of everyone. So I was overall impressed with this game. Of course, he's got to guard the dynamic stars in the United States, being guys like Curry, Booker, Tatum at times. He had to guard Anthony Edwards at times. He had tough assignments all game. And for him to be putting up solid numbers on the offensive end while still putting in so much effort to getting 3 steals, for example, for Australia, that's pretty impressive. And you got to be kind of happy with that if you're Australia, because this is your future. Dyson Daniels, Josh Giddey, Josh Green, those guys are your future, this roster. This roster is a bit on the older side for some of those vets that we remember from a few years ago. Patty Mills, for example, Joe Ingles, Matthew Dellavedova are not the same guys that they once were. For instance, Patty Mills had a pretty rough game here. 2 for 8 for shooting, 1 for 5 from 3, minus 16, 5 turnovers. He just had a pretty rough game, only 5 points. Yeah, Patty Mills. I expect in the future that's going to be better if we do end up needing to play in Australia's future games. He's going to play better. I don't expect that to be terrible shooting across the board for Patty Mills, because he's a solid shooter. And we know with shooters, they can have rough games. The United States had a couple guys that had a rough game here and there. I'm going to go through that. But someone that I'd like to expect more out of is Josh Green. Josh Green, he is now on Charlotte. With him being on Charlotte, he's got an opportunity to really blossom. With the Mavericks, he didn't really have an opportunity to have the ball in his hands because he had Kyrie and Luka he needed to share that ball with. In the finals, he had some good shooting games, which, but only putting up, 3-4 shots. I want to see a little bit more out of him, especially only the 2 assists. I know he only played 19 minutes, but I want to see more out of Josh Green. I was pretty impressed with somebody like Jock Landale. Jock Landale's put Embiid to work. Embiid could not handle Jock Landale. 8 for 10 shooting, 9 for 12 from the field, 75%, 1 for 2 from 3, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He was doing it all. 2 steals, only 1 turnover. plus minus of 1, a positive. I know it's only 1, but it's a positive. And then 20 points. He was just getting easy little dumps down on the the block all game long. So it's an adjustment that the United States is going to need to look at, but it just showcased how well of team play that this roster had, because there are a ton of guys that they made the right play at all point in time. What I like about Australia a lot is because they don't have just a superstar on the roster, they're looking for just everyone to get involved. So they're looking for the best possible shot on the court. Whereas there were a few times that the United States, there were some forced shots there just from guys that, as they kind of should, because they're that star, So yeah, I was really impressed also with Dante Exum. Dante Exum always, for some reason, looks out of shape. He just looks out of shape. He didn't shoot the ball necessarily well, but I was impressed by his defense. Although no steals or blocks here, had a couple turnovers, he plays tough, and that's what Australia really does in general. They're just a bunch of tough basketball players, a bunch of role players that, like, any one of these guys would do really well, solid role players in the NBA. Some of the guys, they just decide to stay over in Australia because that's their hometown, their home country. They want to live there and play there. And but yeah, I was overall pretty impressed with their play, especially that third and fourth quarter there for Australia. The score shows it a lot closer than it was theoretically, because they made that little bit end run there with like 30 seconds to go. They put up a couple baskets that should never have happened. But let's move on over to the United States and let's talk about them. The biggest problem I had with the United States today was Joel Embiid. I understand plus or minus was 10 points, but 3 turnovers. He had 2 steals, which is solid, but he looks out of shape. He does not look ideal for this roster, and it could have just been because of Australia. And I think that the adjustment should have came a lot earlier of bringing in Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis had a really good game here, and you could see Joel Embiid coming off the bench a lot more because of this, but a lot of these rosters have smaller sized big men. You look at Germany with Daniel Tice or Mo Wagner. Of course, there's Serbia, who has big Jokic, but Australia has, smaller bigs, not 7-footers and such. So I think that the United States could use this time as an adjustment to put in Anthony Davis in the starting lineup for a lot of games over Joel Embiid, except for when needed against, the tall guys like Jokic, for example, of Serbia, which Jokic and Serbia are in our group, so we're going to end up playing them specifically. But yeah, overall, I'd like to see a little more out of Tatum specifically. I think he needs to get going a little bit more. I think Anthony Edwards is really planting his flag and showcasing that the United States is going to be all right, and that this is becoming Anthony Edwards' show. He's going out there and balling. He had a really good game. I was really impressed with him. 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. He looked really good on the court. He started off the game, came out hot, hit 2 threes right off the bat. He looked solid. Of course, LeBron, he was really good in the beginning of the game, kind of cooled off. Steph Curry had a pretty poor game. Similar to Patty Mills, just was one of those games that you're not going to expect that come forward. He's going to bounce back. He's not going to, don't think to bring him off the bench or anything. I think the guy that if you're going to look to make an adjustment, it's got to be Joel Embiid for someone like Anthony Davis. But that's only on a game situation thing. Now, another guy that I'd like to talk about would be Devin Booker. Devin Booker had a really good game here, too. 16 points off the bench. I think he's showcasing that he is kind of the sixth man there, that spark plug off the bench. He's kind of filling in that Malik Monk, Jordan Clarkson role for Team USA, that just spark plug, instant offense kind of guy. Because let's be honest, like Drew Holiday's a solid defender, primary defender. Bam Adebayo's primary defender. Anthony Davis, primary defender. Tyrese Halliburton is your playmaker. So it gets Devin Booker a lot of good shots because the rest of these guys aren't really, the rest of this bench isn't going to be really looking for their shot. as much as they are going to be focusing on that defensive end. Now, of course, Anthony Davis is going to be that big man that gets the ball down low. He had nice, easy dips. He, made a three today. LeBron kicked it out to him in the corner. Really impressed by that as well. Overall, with this game, this was just similar to Canada, where we got to get in the flow of things. The United States definitely needs to get in the flow of things and just get used to the fact that this is not although you're playing against Josh Green, who doesn't play a ton in the NBA, or Dante Exum, who doesn't play a ton, or Matthew Dellavedova, who doesn't really play at all, Patty Mills, who doesn't really play a lot. This is a totally different game. This is Olympic basketball. These teams and these guys just almost take another level because they are representing their squads. And another thing that a lot of fans think of is it's just Patty Mills and Jock Landale and all them, so the United States should stomp all over them. Well, realistically, those guys, if we think of the NBA in general, of players that come out of high school, college, the guys that come out of high school and college, and they're the state of the year player of the year kind of thing. They are the number one guy on their team typically. Now, of course, you have those like the Oak Hills and Montverdes of the world where it's just stacked rosters, but there's a lot of times where these rosters, for instance, if you go and look, Patrick Beverley is a good example of this. Patrick Beverley in high school was dominant. Guy was dropping 27 points a game. He is a role player in the NBA kind of thing. That's what I'm getting at, is these guys are now on their own countries and their own rosters, and they have the keys to just say, hey, here's the keys, go kind of thing. Do your thing. That's why you get guys like Jock Landale putting up solid numbers and competing. So I think that's going to be a thing that the United States just needs to adjust to, is the fact that they can't be taking any team lightly. They can't take any team lightly. They need to take every game as serious as they can and never let their foot off the gas, because today they let their foot off the gas in that third quarter, fourth quarter-ish, and they almost lost. They almost blew the lead because of it. So, all right, guys, with that being said, if you did enjoy this kind of content, be sure to tune in for more. I'm going to be trying to cover as many Olympic games as I can, just discussing everything, as well as more NBA coverage as we get more news and everything. I know free agency and trades have kind of slowed down, but as soon as something pops up, I'll be posting videos about it. So if you do enjoy this kind of content, do me a huge favor. Smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below how you felt about the United States performance overall. All right, guys, been another Heart Over Height episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.